Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the last episode of, oh my gosh, the AP test is coming. This is time period 7, the second part. There's not much left, but I really don't know how I could be talking any faster than I am. So here we go from the current slide. I think the last thing, yeah, we have the Scopes. They call it the Scopes Monkey Trial, the Scopes Trial. It was in Dayton, Tennessee. It was Clarence Darrow, William Jennings Bryan. Jennings Bryan had a heart attack and died 5 days after. Don't mean to laugh. But it was obviously a stressful situation. And whether you know it or not, that's a fan in his hand. These are the days before air conditioning. And doesn't that look like Scout Finch in the background? Jean Louise. Anyway, we have fundamentalism. That says every word in the Bible is exactly what it's meant to be. There was no interpretation, no translation, no hyperbole, no parable. Then we have scientific modernism that says science is the only way. And these two groups are really not all that willing to sit down and talk to each other. Um, I want to give you my views of things, but I think they're both right. How about that? Native born versus new immigrants. As soon as we immigrate over, we close the door on the people behind us. That is something we have done since 1607. I got here first, I'm better than you. White versus black. The Red Summer of 1919 is not about Red Scare, communism, it's about race riots and blood. Urban versus rural. These are all of the conflicts going on in the 20s. And you're like, but hold on. Didn't we have a war in the teens? And then the 20s are, dancing and speakeasies and eat, drink, and be merry. That outward Gatsby-ish look at the 20s, not real accurate. Um, that would be like saying the Kardashians represent what's going on in America. I'm not slamming the Kardashians for those of you who are fans, but it is a unrealistic, hyped up view of who we are. So we have the Harlem Renaissance, and this is Langston Hughes. Um, it's odd that I have a favorite poet because I don't like poems. I like Robert Frost. I like a couple of others. I love Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes makes me feel the things he writes. Um, he celebrates African American culture. He celebrates the diversity in America. He points out problems, but it's not, oh, we suck, we're terrible, we're awful. It's, he celebrates. He really does. Even when he's saying, hey, this is what's wrong, he's saying, but wow, so much else is good. Let's fix the wrong stuff and then have a parade. Okay, maybe he didn't say that. But the Harlem Renaissance, of which he is a part, it's a rebirth of art, writing, music, dance, all types of artistic, cultural things. And to say he led it is really not accurate because I don't know that anybody led it. We had the music and the dancing at the Cotton Club. We have Zora Neale Hurston. And I meant to get you to read a short story called Sweat. Um, I know Miss Shelley taught it for a while. I don't know if y'all read that anymore. It is the creepiest, one of the best stories I've ever read. So the 20s end, and the 20s end in a big way. First, the farmers are our canary in the coal mine. And the farmers are saying things wrong. Mortgage rates are too high. Railroad rates are too high. We're not getting enough help out here. Oh, and by the way, it hasn't rained in 3 years. So we're getting this kind of inner core of poverty in the middle of America, what is referred to as the breadbasket. This is supposed to be our backbone. And, you know, it's as you're seeing right now when One business goes under, it creates a ripple effect. And a lot of people, oh, it's the hog farmers. Oh, that's just the guys that grow corn. Oh, okay, but what about the people they sell to and the people who work there? What about the railroads they use to transport things? What about the banks they use for loans and checking and whatever? We are all tied together. No man is an island. Um, we have the farmers. We have rising unemployment. Um, we have people living on credit in the worst possible way. We have people with no extra money investing in the stock market. And then we have the stock market collapse. Um, October 1929. It is, yes, there's Black Tuesday, but there's a series of collapses in the third week of October. And the stock market falls, but it rallies, and people are like, yeah, I knew it would do. And then it falls again and starts to rally. And then it just jumps off a cliff. And everybody from Carnegie to the guy who shines his shoes is in trouble. Herbert Hoover, who is in office, is a good man. I know I've said this before. I hate that he has gone down in history as the man who led us into the Great Depression. He did not. The 20s led us into the Great Depression. Over speculation led us into the Great Depression. The Dust Bowl led us into the Great Depression. Buying stocks on margin. If you don't remember what that means, look it up. Led us into the Great Depression, and living our lives on credit led us into the Great Depression. Hoover just didn't know how to deal with it. And the thing, he is the kind of the epitome of the self-made man. He had worked in a coal mine. He had worked in a factory. He was a poor, uneducated kid who made himself a rich, educated man. And he helped people. He helped us through World War One. He helped Belgium after World War One. He fed people. He fixed things. We elected him when things were good, but when things got bad, we thought, whoever can handle this? Hoover couldn't handle this. Um, this was a new problem, and this needed a new kind of thinker. And we got that person in Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And whatever you think about him and his programs, the New Deal, what you have to understand that I find most admirable and is one of the big points that AP makes is this is a man who was willing to try things. He had almost zero problem going, well, that didn't work, bad idea. But we tried it and now we know. If you don't try it, you don't know. If you fail, you admit it. You say, oh my goodness, let's try something else. He had all of these programs, some of which overlapped each other, but they were all focused on relief, recovery, and reform. He wanted to relieve our suffering, to help us recover, and to help reform whatever institution from farming to banking it was that led us to where we were. He was a huge fan of Theodore Roosevelt, his fifth cousin. And he said, I want to be like my cousin Theodore, preaching president. He believed that the presidency was by and large a place of moral leadership, that he was obliged, he was obligated, he was sworn to do the best he could to do the most right things possible. So he took older progressive ideas, he twisted them, turned them upside down, and stole from other people. Nothing wrong with that. Now, did he have problems? He had the court packing plan, where he tried to manipulate the numbers on the Supreme Court to get votes to go his way. Was it a good and moral thing to do? No. Was it understandable? Sure. Um, there are radicals, not radials, but radicals like Huey Long. Huey Long had been, okay, I don't remember if he'd been governor of Louisiana and now he's a senator or vice versa. But he's always referred to as Senator Long. He had the Share Our Wealth plan, sometimes referred to as Share the Wealth plan. And he basically said, if you make over a certain amount, we're going to take your money. We're going to give you an award, say thanks for helping, but then we're going to redistribute that money. Now, that amount in the Depression era was $5 million, which is the equivalent of about 100 million now. Um, so it's not like he was, going to take your third paycheck or something. People like you and I would not be touched except for things like stimulus checks. And, but, this is America. This is um, the heart, the seat of capitalism. And a lot of people really didn't like that. And you can go, okay, well, I can see why they didn't like it. But there were people who didn't like Social Security, a program that we pay for our entire lives so that our elderly are not eating dog food and living in a friend's garage. Well, that's social. No, it's not. It is a social program, which is not the same thing. A fire department is a social program. We all contribute for the good of all. Now, the impacts of the New Deal drove us into debt. Um, we have things, Social Security, that's a very old copy of a Social Security card. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which insures your bank deposits. We have the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission. We have more power in unions, and we had a huge shift from the party of Lincoln, the Republicans, who were liberal at the time of the Civil War. African Americans began to realign themselves politically with the Democrats um, because of the administration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. World War II. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese. It was a surprise attack. Yes, people were, well, Roosevelt knew it was coming. It's how he got us in the war. No. Roosevelt knew something was going to happen in the Pacific. He thought, reasonably enough, that it would be a British or Dutch territory. We had stayed out of the war till this point, except we really hadn't. We were doing cash and carry. We were doing Lend-Lease. We were helping everybody, except we weren't. We were only helping the folks we agreed with, which was basically, by the time we get in the war, the British are the only ones left. The Japanese that live within 150 miles of the west coast of America are put in internment camps. They later win a Supreme Court decision in the 70s and are compensated for this. We dropped the bomb. Now, Roosevelt dies. Roosevelt serves, Roosevelt is elected to 4 terms. He serves 3 full terms in 4 months of the next one. He dies. Harry Truman becomes president. Harry Truman does not know about our nuclear program, our atomic program, until he becomes president. And he is the man who decides to drop the bomb. Does he drop it lightly? I do not believe he does. I read some really ginormous books on Truman. I believe he was a good and moral man. I believe it kept him up at night. And I believe when it came down to it, he said, I have to decide between American lives and other lives. I don't think that's racism. I think that is the job of the president to protect his people. Why did we win the bomb? Because we're a democracy, because people got to choose whether or not to support us. I don't know. But post-war, the United States emerged as the most powerful nation in the world. Europe lay in ruins. And yes, we go back and we do our best to rebuild Japan. We have the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe. But World War II changed the makeup and the power structure of the world. Now, here's your review one more time. Why do we expand? Spanish-American War, the progressives, a very good question. for DBQ might be about the progressives, considering everything that's going on now.